And we are now live. So I can see people trickling in. I love watching that number go up. So exciting. So we were just talking about the weather here. It's kind of warmer today. Where I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. It's a little bit warmer today. So it's in the 50s. I'm super excited about that.
Well, last night it was like 12 degrees and it said it felt like 2. And I'm here in New York and I'm like, I haven't seen this in a long, long time. So it's
Yeah.
frigid.
So tell us as you guys come in where you're from, who you are, and what the weather is like where you are, because I like living vicariously through others if they're living in a warm place.
I was speaking with somebody the other day and she was down in the Fort Lauderdale area and holy cow, she was in her tank top and sitting out on her lanai and we're having a meeting and I was like, okay, it's really cold here. Do you think you could put a sweater on and just, make me feel like I'm not that cold? Oh. And
Yeah.
how's Michigan, Heidi and Randy? How are you doing up there?
Chilly. I think Randy mentioned to you too that she has a blanket on that you can't see off screen, and I certainly have my worn socks on. It's in the 20s today, which feels a little balmy. The last couple of days have been pretty frigid.
Yeah, yeah, it really has
Let's
been.
see, we got a lot. It looks like the 40s are kind of the average here. We've got North Carolina, Virginia, South Alabama, Minnesota. Oh, Minnesota, I bet it's cold there.
So
How
that
cold is it in Minnesota, Jenny? Tell us. I'm so
the truth is
curious.
that you don't want to know. Oh, Texas Jenny is in 50s. Okay.
Oh, we got another one from New York, Joyce.
I'm from Queens. Hi, Julia. I know another Scalia. Interesting. I'm out on Long Island now, Julia. So, but I grew up in Queens. And, oh, New Hampshire, 23. There you go. There you
I can't, anytime I hear Queens, I can't help but think of The Nanny, the TV show, and that song about flushing Queens. I think it goes in my head
go.
every single time.
See,
It's there's like,
I grew up listening to Paul Simon singing about King of Corona and things like that. So that's literally where I grew up in Queens was Corona. So always affiliate with that. But I think we're at the top of the hour. I know we have a lot of people registered, so we'll let them keep kind of funneling on in. We will have more people joining us. But Michelle, I think we should introduce ourselves and start focusing on getting started here. So I'll say hi. I'm Joyce Whitby. I'm a consultant here with Education Associates. I'm your host for today. And Michelle?
hi, I'm Michelle Magaram. I am the National Sales and Marketing Manager here at Education Associates, and I am kind of co-hosting-ish, but also I'm going to be more in the chat, kind of behind the scenes, answering all of your all's questions, and I'll just be on at the beginning and then, be there for you guys, answer anything you want, and then pop back up on the end.
Awesome, awesome. And we're really excited because we have two really special friends here with us from Nocti, which officially is the National Occupational Competency Testing Institute. Heidi and Randy, you want to say hi and just introduce yourself and where you're from?
Hi, I'm Randy Van Hemmer. I am with Nocti's Customer Care and Outreach Division, and I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you.
Awesome.
And I'm Heidi Spies. I manage our customer care and outreach division. And like Randy, happy to be here today and thank you for the invitation.
Oh, we're so glad to have you both here. I've been talking about Nocti with folks for the past few years. I'm actually now with Education Associates almost 4 years. And boy, we've been having a lot of fun introducing people to the concept here of job credentials and life skills and job credentials and what that means for everybody. So we're going to get into that a little bit more. Michelle's going to go on off behind the scenes. So if you have any questions or want to just interact, Michelle will be back there. I'll be back there in a little bit as well. But for right now, if
Hey
my
guys.
Zoom wants to do the good thing, I am going to launch a poll. So everybody here should be able to see the poll. What is your role in education? And we've got several choices that you can make right on the screen. A classroom teacher for general ed, classroom teacher for special ed, a transition, fill in the blank, specialist, director, coordinator, teacher, um, all of the above. And that's more on the special ed side of things. And then CTE or career prep, which might be more gen ed-ish, but we have some folks there, administrators. And if it's something that we haven't listed here, go ahead and enter it on into the chat. We hope you become really active on the chat. We love making this a community. We oftentimes have lots of repeat people. So if this is not your first rodeo here with us, please say hi again and let us know. All right, I see Nancy's an OT, occupational therapist, and we have a grad student. Yay, congratulations to April. And move things out of the way to see, orientation and mobility specialist, and a VR counselor. Is that a virtual reality counselor? I'm not familiar, VR. If you want to explain further, we'd all learn from you. I'm going to end the poll and share the results with everybody so that everybody can kind of see that we've got a nice mix of folks in here, but lots of people who are really interested in helping to prepare kids for their future in this really crazy world that we're in. And so it's changing on an everyday basis as we go along. I just, welcome everybody who has been here with us throughout 2020 and 2021. This is like our 17th monthly webinar that we've done over this, and it started because of the pandemic and just trying to reach people, and I think it's something we're going to keep for a long time. Of course, at Education Associates, one of our big mantra is one size doesn't fit all. And because Michelle is particularly fond of Disney, we had two different ways of looking at this year, because a shoe that fits one person pinches another. I love that. That's just, it's Cinderella plus Carl Jung. I mean, you can't go beyond that. But we don't believe one size fits all. We're all about individualization. We've been here since 1980. And I finally changed the slide because it had happy 40th anniversary for us for the longest time. But the curriculum that we have did not look like it does now in 1980, as you can well imagine. Over these 40 years, based upon input from educators like yourselves, we have incorporated the hands-on evidence-based practice, data collection tools, UDL. I mean, just so many different elements correlating both to CTE goals as well as academics. So we've integrated the academics. We've found ways to build professional development into a real manageable implementation plan to help everybody fit this into their particular needs. So we're really excited about sharing more with you about the employability badges, employability credentials. You don't have to take any of our word for it. We've been around so long. We've been approved and validated by a number of different major organizations, including our work with Nocti. And of course, in 2020, just as the pandemic struck, we finally got our endorsement from CASE, which is huge to us. That really says an awful lot that the Council of Administrators of Special Ed have endorsed us. It's almost like a little mini dissertation we had to go through in order to defend and prove our research. And we had field-based research. We had faculty from the University of Kentucky. We had a lot of real clinical work done to say that our program, our curriculum does yield great results. Our curriculum is project discovery and achieve life skills. There's two big parts to it. I'm really not going to go into depth on it though. So project discovery is well over 100 different career choices from elementary through not just high school, but that 17 through 21, 22-year-old age for career awareness, exploration, and actual job skills training. And our life skills materials are really those independent living skills that you need in order to be your own personal best. That's all I'm going to tell you about our curriculum, because we don't have enough time to do that and share all the other good stuff we have. But at the end of this, if you'd like more information, we'll share with you how you can obtain that. So it's not meant to be a big product pitch, more to talk about something new and different. So with that, it is my pleasure to turn this on over. Heidi, I think you're going to start things off. And what I need to do is, as we practice, is I need to give you the wonderful slide control. And for one more second, I'm just going to stop my video and mute, but I'll be here on the chat as well. So I'm going to leave it to you ladies if you've questions, I'm going to join Randy at the end, and we'll see you in just a bit. Here you go.
Thank you, Joyce. I'm actually Randy Van Hemmer, and I'm going to start us off today. I am joined by Heidi, like we mentioned before, and we're both from our Nocti Customer Care and Outreach team, and we really appreciate this opportunity to be a part of the webinar. I just wanted to reiterate that one more time. We always look forward to working with education associates and their credentialing initiatives. So let's start off just with a little information here. Nocti collaborates with many like-minded organizations whose focus is to support education and advancing opportunities for learners. For many years, Nocti and Education Associates have connected on various collaborations. In fact, some Nocti industry-based competencies have been used by Education Associates for some of the Project Discover curriculum, such as General Office Assistant and Horticulture Greenhouse Worker. Nocti is a national leader in CTE credentialing solutions and resources and have been engaged with the education community since 1966. So over time, we've moved from developing and delivering teacher assessments to individuals wishing to enter the CTE teaching field, to student credentialing and testing for business and industry through our Nocti Business Solutions. We refer to them also as NBS. Nocti is a nonprofit organization owned and operated by the 50 states and territories. We work with CTE completers at all levels and offer 150 plus occupational credentials, 50 plus industry association credentials, and meet the definition of post-secondary credential under the Perkins 5 and WIOA Part 3. As I mentioned a moment ago, we also offer testing for business and industry through NBS, which is a for-profit organization that works with businesses to assess potential employees. NBS offers 200 plus occupational credentials, 50 plus industry association credentials, and collegiate credit for life experiences. So between the two organizations, lots and lots of credentialing opportunities. ISO means International Organization for Standardization. It's an independent, non-governmental international organization that develops standards to ensure the quality, safety, and efficiency of products, services, and systems. You'll often see ISO flags flying outside of manufacturing companies as validation that they are ISO compliant. For a number of years, ISO has established guidelines that well-run certification programs should follow. And this standard, the ISO IEC 17024, sets the gold standard to which industry certification programs can aspire. Nocti and Nocti Business Solutions have earned full accreditation for this important standard, which ensures that a neutral third party has properly evaluated both of our organizations and held them up to international standards. ICAC accreditation signifies that Nocti's CTE assessments and certifications, as well as our Nocti Business Solutions technical skills assessments, follow the best international industry practices and standards. This accreditation is particularly critical for clients using our credentials and for those that use Nocti for assessment development services. It also provides an additional layer of credibility that our partners can share with their stakeholders and is not something that is found with all credentialing organizations. So similar to Education Associates accreditation, this is a high value accreditation for Nocti as well. As we get started, please think about the key takeaways you would like to have when you leave today. We'll have time at the end of our presentation for questions and answers. And we are also available via the Contact Us page on our website at nocti.org for anything beyond this presentation as well. Nocti and Education Associates are both passionate about their role in preparing America's future workforce. That workforce consists of workers with various levels of skills and knowledge. And while Nocti works primarily with career and technical education programs, there's a lot of crossover between our work with CTE credentials and learners who may not be in a traditional CTE program for a variety of reasons. The information we plan to share will hopefully help to better understand credentials in general and what to look for when trying to find an appropriate and quality credential for your students. This is a discussion we often have when working with CTE educators who are a part of our Nocti community, but they are relevant for actually all teachers. So how do you know if students are learning, and how do you validate the skills they've learned? There's a variety of ways, as you know, but one piece of the puzzle is credentials. Incorporating credentials into your programs so that students have the opportunity to validate what they have learned and have proof of that knowledge in the form of a credential. And if the credentialing assessment provides scoring data, that can be analyzed even better. Interpretation of what is a credential varies widely. We've been engaged with the Credential engine for some time, and part of their focus is identifying and defining credentials. If you are not familiar with Credential engine, they are a nonprofit whose mission is to map the credential landscape with clear and consistent information. This is a snippet from a report by Credential engine. Notice that 967,734 number. It's much higher than I would have ever guessed.
Hi, this is Heidi chiming in. And Randy, you're right. That number is much higher than I would have guessed as well. It's a little bit surprising, actually. So when we think about the credential landscape, it can be pretty confusing to navigate, especially when you're looking at a number that high. So credentials can be really anything from a micro-credential to a licensure, a certification, earning a certificate, or even completing a degree. So a pretty wide variety. And the ways in which a credential are recognized and the level to which a credential can be used as verification of skills or job readiness varies as well. Some credentials are really recognizable. As an example, you might look for an ASE certified mechanic for someone to do work on your car, or you might find a restaurant with a label that indicates that their chef was certified by the American Culinary Federation. But credentials with less recognition also have value. So what if a student wasn't going to become an ASE certified mechanic, but loved working on cars? There are credentials that can provide verification of a subset of skills within an industry, and those jobs need to be filled, and potential employees with a credential for that subset of skills could have an advantage in the job market. And that conversation all ties directly to the Education Associates Credentialing Initiative, which we're going to be discussing a little bit more in a bit, and which Joyce covered a little bit on the front end of our presentation today. And as we move through the rest of our presentation, be thinking, as Randy mentioned, about takeaways, but also how credentials can be incorporated into your programs and benefit your students and stakeholders, and any questions that you might have for us at the end. We wanted to talk a little bit about developing a quality credential and what that looks like. So the foundation of many credentials is an assessment. And a quality assessment must follow the best practices for the credentialing body industry. What you're seeing is a snapshot of our process here at Nocti and the steps that we follow when we're developing an assessment that's going to serve as the foundation for a credential. And I know Education Associates follows the same quality practices when they're developing their courses and content. So using our Nocti process as an example, it's really important to note when we're talking about assessments that Nocti really focuses on occupational skills such as accounting, carpentry, culinary, or welding, and employability skills. But this quality process really applies to any type of high stakes credentialing or assessment development process. So at the foundation of the credentialing assessment are the standards and competencies. Questions are linked to the competencies, which in turn are linked to the standards. We start with a team of subject matter experts that's convened from business and industry to serve as the development team. And the process is facilitated by an expert in developing quality assessments. From there, once the standards and competencies are identified, they're rated by the SMEs for importance. And those deemed most important are included on the assessment. That doesn't mean that they're not all important to learn, but as you know, one test cannot measure everything that a student has learned. So those competencies that are included on the test end up representing the critical skills that students should know and be able to do when they complete a program. From that rating exercise, a test blueprint is developed, and that serves as the roadmap for the rest of the development process. The blueprint outlines such things such as the amount of content that will be applied to each standard and how many questions are linked to each competency. And then using that blueprint as a guide, the facilitator works with the SMEs to select or create test questions linked to each competency. There are many, many quality control and review steps along the way, as you can imagine. But once we have a draft test finalized, then it's time for pilot testing. And that's a critical piece of the process that helps to validate the assessment as a reliable tool that we can release for use. So pilot testing is actually mimicking an actual test administration with a representative sample of individuals that the test was intended for. And then once we have the pilot test results and they're analyzed to be sure the items in the test as a whole are functioning correctly, we can move on to creating a legally defensible cut score. And once we have that and have applied any final edits, then the test is ready for use. So it's quite a process. It's actually a really fun and engaging process for that subject matter expert team, but it's one that's really critical in assuring that you have a quality assessment that serves as the foundation for any credentialing program. So when we reference the ASC mechanic or an ACF certified chef and mentioned there are different levels of credentials, here are just some examples from Nocti to give you an idea of the choices that are out there. And this is just within our credentialing assessment list. So you can see from job ready credentials that are very occupation specific and measure very comprehensive sets of occupational skills, such as the welding and the carpentry that I had mentioned previously, on down to micro credentials, which measure a very discrete subset of skills. There are different types and levels of credentials that can benefit different types of learners, courses, and programs. And exploring all that really is critical, but definitely takes a little bit of investigation. And then pre-CTE or lower grades can benefit also from credentialing, possibly from micro-credentials or employability skills credentials, where a 2-year CTE program might benefit more from a comprehensive credential, such as a job-ready credential. So we thought we'd highlight a couple of specific examples, starting with the employability skills credentials. So you can see that these might be beneficial for a wide range of courses and programs. And you can see from the blueprint example that the standards covered in one of our employability credentials cover things such as applied academic skills, technology use, personal qualities, information use, and so on. There are multiple options that focus on different standard groupings with us here at Nocti. So there are a lot of choices for employability credentials, including some options for middle grades or pre-CTE students. So it's not always about an occupation-specific credential. It could also be about an employability credential that might be beneficial for a group of learners. And then another example would be micro-credentials. So the driving force for this project, and this is new for Nocti, was to offer learners the opportunity to earn recognition for their knowledge of a discrete subset of skills within an occupation or a critical area such as employability skills or safety. It was really important for us to offer an option for learners that maybe weren't able to complete an entire CTE program, but did learn a set of skills that could be beneficial for them when they go out and try to find a job or plan their next steps after school. And then we really wanted learners and teachers to have 24/7 access to the content and the instructional resources through our LMS. And really, this new initiative started right at the beginning of the pandemic. And so that access to the content through an LMS to really provide opportunities for teachers to have resources that they could use when maybe students were outside the classroom, became even more important than we initially thought it was going to be. So they're pretty easy to incorporate into a synchronous or an asynchronous learning or a hybrid model. We've talked to a lot of people along the way, and some feedback we've received about microcredentials includes, we have some programs that are planning to include those in an employability focused microcredential across different programs within their school, or incorporating titles into career exploration programs. We've talked to teachers that are planning to utilize the safety related microcredentials and the basic skills microcredentials in introductory courses. So there's a lot of options, and really just kind of wanted to show you these two particular examples just to reiterate that when you're talking about credentialing, you know, there's a lot of levels and things to explore.
Thank you, Heidi. As we've been talking about credentials, we wanted to take a few minutes to discuss digital badges. Nocti and Education Associates both use digital badges as recognition for their credentials. For those of you that are not familiar with what a digital badge is, it's a unique way to promote a three-dimensional picture of an individual. This is allowing viewers to see beyond a report card or traditional certificate. And badges offer a means to display and validate individual achievement, as well as verify competence through projects, programs, courses, credentials, and even other activities. Let's go ahead and take a look at our Nocti Skill Badge Locker and some digital badges. Joyce, would you mind letting me share my screen? Thank you.
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Okay, so here's the login page of our skill badge system for Nocti. And if we get logged in here, you'll be able to see there's several different badges in here. There's quite a few Education Associates badges, and then we also have some Nocti badges in here as well. So this particular skill badge locker system is available for the students. Once they've earned a badge, they'll receive an email that provides them information on how they can access their badge. They'll be able to get to the login page and then register for their account. As long as their account, the email they used to register, matches the email the badge was awarded to, then they will have access to any badges that were awarded to that email address. As you can see here, there's the ability to import badges in from any other lockers that they may utilize so that they can have easy access to all of their badges in one simple system. Let's go ahead and take a look at just a couple of these badges here quick. So I'm going to click on the Carpentry Badge to start. If we click into the badge, this is actually the page that can be visible for others to view. This is what we refer to as our metadata, and it goes over all of the details and information that supports this badge. So you can see here, it provides the name of the badge, the individual it's issued to. This is a description of what this badge means, what it stands for. We also have our criteria summary, which explains what this particular student did to earn this badge, what type of criteria they met to be able to have this recognition. We have a link. I'm going to click on it quick here, and it's going to bring me over to a page with Education Associates that further supports that criteria. It provides additional information for the student and what, all of the different subjects that they've gone through to be able to earn this badge. You can see here the date that it's issued, and then also it'll have expiration dates. The nice thing with our digital badges is if there is a badge that does have an expiration date, it never actually leaves the locker. It shows that history. So if a badge does get shared and it does expire, it remains there and it remains shared, because even though it may not be still active, it's still showing that that student at some point earned that recognition and shows their history. If we go down further, this is the issuer details. So this particular badge was issued by Education Associates. Here's a quick description of the organization, which I'm sure you're all aware of, a link to their website, and then some contact information as well. So this is what is supporting who's awarded this badge and who has stated that this student deserves this recognition because they met this criteria. The nice thing with our digital badge system is they can download their badges. If you see here, there's a button where they can actually share these. So they can share these out to several different social media outlets so that potential employers have the opportunity to see these. They can also even email them directly to a potential employer or print them if they wanted to provide them in a hard copy portfolio when they go in for a resume, for example. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of benefits with our digital badge system. I'm going to go back to the main locker here. The other thing that I wanted to show you while we're in here is that you can see I have several different education associates badges listed. On the left-hand side, I was able to create a collection of my badges. So I've got two of them here. One focuses specifically on badges I've earned in a health science career cluster. And then I have another one that specifically focuses on any badges I've earned from education associates. So if I click into this collection, it actually shows a summary with the metadata and the badge of all of these education associates badges that I've earned. And again, you'll notice this icon that looks similar on the previous page. I can share this entire collection. So it can show those potential employers all of these different credentials that I've earned. Joyce, I think you also have some experience in here as well. And if I remember correctly, you had an interesting story too. So I wanted to know if you wanted to chime in here and add anything.
And we just have to say to everybody who's watching, we had so much fun planning this because I've been talking about this for quite a while. And then what I was learning from Randy, I didn't know you can separate it into different groups and so forth. But what I shared with her was that I was at a conference just pre-COVID that where superintendent and assistant soup were sharing about their digital badge program in Aurora, Colorado. And it's part of their CTE program. And I sat there, I learned a lot from them. And I asked a few questions like, so what does a student have to do to get into this program? The first thing they said, well, they need a 9th grade reading level or better. And I thought, for our special needs students, that kind of limits it drastically, just to leave it at that, right? Everybody who knows what I'm talking about. So that was one thing I thought about. And I said, well, we have courses, life skills and job skills preparation courses that modify the reading level of the content to fit the learner, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade reading levels, talking about auto body detailing and things like that. I mean, so I said, okay, we've got a way to help that gap. And then I said, what do you do with those badges once the kids have them? And this is the freebie gift of the day, everybody, write it on down. They have the students create a LinkedIn profile. And I was like, of course. Wow. I live every day on my LinkedIn profile. I do a lot of social networking. I happen to be one of those people. I do a lot of work on my social networking through LinkedIn, not through Facebook or Twitter or other things. But, and it just made so much sense. And then I came back to the Nocti skill badge system and I was like, here it is. As you just showed before, Randy, when you click on to one of the badge and you're looking at the micro credentials, you can go ahead and share it on out right to LinkedIn. I was like, that's the full circle. That was just like, it just, all the lights kind of clicked on for me there. The other thing I show people is that, let's say you have that auto body detailing badge or this carpentry badge, the potential employer at that location might not be on LinkedIn, like Joyce is. Just saying. So the ability to hit print on this, and when I hit print on that, I see the badge and then I see a list of all of this micro-credentialing, all of this metadata. So I'm a really nice one-pager that I could walk into to, let's say, the Jiffy Lube and say, hi, this is our student. He's part of our, transition program. Here are the things that he's already learned how to do in school. We'd really like you to have give him an opportunity to be a worker here with you, and we're going to assist. And here's how our program works. I mean, one of the things, Randy and Heidi, that we're always talking with educators about is that they need to build their network within their own community of those viable career pathways for their students. And in Queens, where I said I grew up, you could be anything because there's just so many millions of people living in a small area, but in other towns, you need to look. And so, people from Branson, Missouri were saying, yes, we've got very specific industries here with the retail and the tourism that come on in and things like that. So when you can take a badge and walk up to somebody in your community and saying, we're preparing them for what you do, I just think it's really powerful. And that's what this is about. It's giving you the power to kind of speak to those folks. And there are organizations that regularly make it part of their practice to work with individuals who have special needs. So adults who are developmentally delayed and so forth. So if you are going on into, the Marriott Corporation and gosh, now I'm going to blank on some of them, but there is really quite a number of them that really focus in, and they're happy to employ people to really make sure that we're giving a chance. McDonald's, of course, does a great job with that as well. There was one other point that we made. You were talking about it a little bit before when you showed the whole list under that criteria. On some of these, as you look at this, go ahead and click on it. That's so cool. I've had transition specialists say to me, so as you're looking at this, these are some of your transition goals for your ITPs, right? It's kind of already, when given this set of parameters, this student is going to demonstrate competency in operating a power hand drill / screwdriver. And these are the A through L, however many items that is, those are A through L tasks that make up that goal. This is the task analysis that we spend so much time as special educators. We spend so much time on paperwork. Right here, you've got a way to facilitate it. I know we want to make individual goals. We don't want them to be canned, but you can build on this. You don't have to invent it from thin air. And the other thing, and one of the ones I was looking at the other day, it demonstrated where it says he's demonstrating safety in this particular. It said demonstrates a knowledge of the Osha guidelines for safety in using these materials, and it was cleansing types of things, so all the chemical cleansers and so forth. And that was a conversation I had with an educator here in New York who's up in the Westchester area, and they said, is this an Osha course? Does this get you Osha certified? And so I said, well, our materials from Education Associates are really vast and broad. There's a lot of materials in there, but no, we don't have an OSHA specific course. However, and I pulled up this list of criteria. I said, if you see in this particular course, it's saying that the student's going to demonstrate a familiarity and competency with working with OSHA standards for properly disposing of these chemicals. So what we're trying to do within our courses is give students kind of that pre-training, right? Getting them ready to take an OSHA course, because they may not be able to just walk in off the street, sign up for an OSHA course, take it, and be successful. But we feel that if they take one of our courses first under your guidance in your schools, that then you'll see which students would be ready to take an OSHA certification course. And I think once you get that OSHA certification, that's called I'm employable for life. I have, particular job skills that if I move from New York to Orlando to work at Disney, I have skills to do that, right? But OSHA certification travels with you. So I think we're preparing students for their future, for helping them get those types of skills. So that was kind of a summary of what we chatted about the other day, and we just thought, okay, let Joyce interrupt and kind of spill some of that in there. Hope you don't mind. I don't think I went over, but we're still good on time.
Thank you, Joyce. That was very helpful and informative as well.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Yeah, just a couple more things that I wanted to mention, and then we'll get right back to our presentation here. So also with this locker, students can actually have access to it even beyond graduation. So they'll be able to have these credentials and share them out beyond graduation. If their email address needs to be changed, they can change it at any time and still continue to maintain that access so that they can continue to share them, print them, use them for any kind of potential employment that they may have in the future. And that really kind of sums up a brief tutorial on our Skill Badge Locker. So I'm going to return back to the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and give the controls back to Joyce.
All right, there you go.
Thank you. And as we just demonstrated in the badge system, badges can really be used as a tool to impact retention and motivation. They recognize achievements and allow employers to find candidates with specific skills. So badges have the potential to positively impact learners, employers, and even the workforce.
So when we're talking about credentials, whether they be our Nocti credentials or the employability credentials through Education Associates, you know, a lot of times there's a conversation that comes up about why are credentials important and why are they important to different audiences. So obviously, if you're a student and you're earning a credential, that is really a feel-good moment. You can demonstrate that you have not only learned these skills, but you have something that recognizes and verifies the learning for those skills. You can take that credential, whether it be electronic format that Randy mentioned with the badge locker, or a printout copy or a certificate, and you can take that with you to a job interview, and you've got something that verifies what you've got on your resume. And that, I think that's really great for students to be able to earn something for their learning. And it could be with the micro-credential scenario where they might be earning several different credentials along the way of their program or through their learning experience, and maybe a culminating credential at the end. So there's a lot of different ways in which students can earn credentials along the way. For parents and guardians, you know, a really important group to engage. I think they really want to know what are my students going to learn? What are the projected outcomes for my students with their learning? And then knowing that the students are actually going to come away with a credential that will help jumpstart their next phase of education, whether that be continuing on into education, transitioning to a job, or what have you. I think that's important too. Engaging the parents and guardians, letting them know exactly what the students are going to be learning, and then what the recognition piece is going to be. For educators, credentials can provide a means to recognize, again, what students have learned in their classroom. It also can serve as a verification for the teacher of what they've taught. A lot of times when we've had conversations with educators that are new to credentialing, you know, they're busy, you're busy as an educator, and to add one more thing to the mix sometimes just can seem a little bit overwhelming. We've talked to some educators that have concerns about, you know, passing scores. What if only a certain percentage of my students are able to obtain this recognition or pass this assessment? But then when you have conversations about trends over time, so it really is a lot of powerful data that can give teachers, you know, what they need to show, hey, when I started giving this credential, you know, only a certain number of students were passing, but over time, look at how that's increased, proving what they're learning in the classroom, proving what the teacher's teaching. So that can be really powerful, that data that comes along with a credentialing assessment. And then finally, obviously for employers, there's all kinds of reasons for incorporating credentials. We have employers on our MBS side that tie credentials to apprenticeship programs, to training programs, promotion and advancement programs, but really one of the biggest reasons that an employer would be looking for a credential is pre-employment, making sure that they're hiring the right person for the job, using credentials as a tool to maybe, you know, slim down the candidate pool. When someone can walk in with verification in the form of a credential, it's really definitely giving them, you know, a jump start in that process of gaining employment over someone who maybe comes in without that credential. So just thinking about why credentials are important, that whole stakeholder community, who are your stakeholders and how you can engage them. And I think Joyce made a really good point, and it's one that we often, again, have conversations with here at Nocti with our community, is engaging your business community, helping them to understand what the credentials mean and what the students have learned. We oftentimes say, you know, if you could go to a prospective employer and say, I know you're needing employees, and if we could give you employees that have learned and have a credential in all of these areas, and then you can show them that competency list, would that be appreciated? And once employers look at that competency list, absolutely, those are probably the kinds of employees that they're looking for. So just a lot of really good things to think about. when you're thinking about why credentials are important, how to incorporate, and then engaging that whole stakeholder community. And so with stakeholders in mind, before we move on and in thinking about, everything that we've been talking about for the last few minutes here, we'd like to capture some ideas or questions or best practices that you might have for engaging stakeholders or incorporating a credentialing program, really anything that you think might be helpful. And so what we're going to do, we'll take just a minute and let you think about what that might be. And then if you can type your suggestion or your idea in the chat window, but don't hit enter yet. Just wait and let's get everybody a minute to type in their answers. And when I hit go, then you can all hit enter and we'll see what's popping up. And then we're going to capture all of this information. And I know Education Associates is going to follow up and get some answers to questions, and then this information here about best practices and ideas out to you after the webinar. So take a minute, think about how you engage stakeholders, ideas for that, thoughts about incorporating a credentialing program, and then I'm going to give you a minute and then we'll hit go together. Goodness, a minute can seem like a long time when you're sitting here waiting. We'll do a couple more seconds and then we're going to hit enter. All right, everybody that had an idea or a thought or a comment, go ahead and hit enter. Wow. Some really good ideas. And honestly, is some questions about, from those of you that are really just here seeking to learn more information. That's great. So I think as we're moving on, Randy, if you want to click to the next slide, or Joyce, if you're taking back over.
I think this is where we kind of come on in together. I love that. That's a waterfall chat where everybody can kind of answer all at one time as they're, and see everything kind of coming in front of them. A lot to absorb in that. That's so much fun. Thank you for participating in that, everybody here in the audience. So now we've got some time to just kind of take some of the questions. Michelle, I know you've been looking at the chat. I'll let you kind of chime in.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, we had several questions, and then I love the fact that, some of these things that people are typing in, I would love to highlight some of that as well, if we have the time. So a couple things, we got a really interesting question at the very beginning. There was somebody that said that they needed to jump off a little early. So let me ask their question first. Are the badges credentials recognized by WIOA?
Oh, we are.
There you go. There's your answer. Yes, we are. Okay. And then, so this is the one that I thought was interesting. Has the Great Resignation had a positive or negative impact on young adults seeking employment?
From our Nocti perspective, I'm not sure that we are far enough down the road to actually be able to look at that data. But I can tell you that the things that we're hearing in our community, our employers are definitely looking for employees. They're struggling to fill positions, and they're not always that ASE certified mechanic. It could be they're needing to fill the position of the person that helps to change the oil or the prep chef in the kitchen. So it's not always those more comprehensive jobs. It's kind of all jobs across the board. And I think that's really put an enhanced focus on CTE and on making sure that the students that are leaving programs have the opportunity to learn those occupational skills. that pipeline is just continuing to have a lot of not just resignations, but also, people are retiring and there's just a lot of jobs to fill.
That's a good point, Heidi. This great resignation that's going on nationwide is really daunting, but I think that, like I have a young man. He's just 38 now, so this is to me young man in our community who has worked at our local grocery for like over 15 years, and everybody knows Ted. And you can't miss the fact that Ted has autism. It kind of is really clear, but he's been there for so long. He has seen managers come and go. And Ted is the steady person at that grocery. He knows how to do all the jobs. He is dependable. He shows up on time. He doesn't mind doing things, over and over again. This is a source of goodness to him, that he can contribute and be an independent man. And that's Ted's personal best. Like on the weekend, he plays his guitar in front of Starbucks or at a bar because he loves music, and he's got a little band he jams. And I mean, it's Ted's personal best life, but it's a dependable employee who doesn't necessarily, going to be part of the Great Resignation because they didn't get the special promotion or so that. Ted is keeping that organization running. And there's a lot of those folks out there, and we need all types. We can't all be, the head mechanic or the head chef. We need sous chefs. We need people at all levels, right?
Absolutely. Okay, another question that we actually just got is the lowest reading level supported with visuals? And I wanted to say yes, that there are all sorts of supports, text, audio, you name it. There's video modeling as well, and for some of it. So yes, all of that is supported. A lot of you guys have asked for a list of all of the credentials and the every course that we offer credentialing for. And I could actually, send that. We will have a follow-up email, so I could always add that in that email, that we send out to all of the attendees. And then, unless Joyce has a slide right now where she could bring it up, but if not, I don't want to put her on the spot.
Sure.
But
I don't have a slide of each of those courses, but I do have the number because our executive VP of education, Shelley Maurer, sent to me earlier. We have 186 employability credentials out of all of our materials. So life skills and job skills, career awareness, we've got 186 different credentials that can be earned. And so we can enumerate that in your follow-up note. But that's pretty awesome. And, banking on the rest of your other question before, evidence-based practices that are incorporated. We have 17 titles specifically, which have a whole bunch of credentials associated with them that are adapted for students who have real more severe and profound needs. So we really do use those social stories and visual scheduling and visual modeling. So there's a lot of really good techniques that go down to some of the second grade reading level, and all with audio support. So non-readers and our English language learners as well. Kind of cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then the other thing, let's see, do these credentials incorporate soft skills? So I wanted to say, so we do have for employability credentials, it's for both there are credentials for job skills and credentials for those soft skills. So for the project discovery, that's all, vocational stuff. And then we have for achieve life skills, it's all of your soft skills that you can also earn credentials for. And then let's see, the other question, does Nocti have its own series of badges?
Yeah.
We do. So Nocti actually has digital badges that are tied to our certification, our workforce competency credential. We also have digital badges tied to our National College Credit Recommendation Report as well. And then we have digital badges that are tied to our micro credentials. So we have several different opportunities for individuals to earn digital badges.
Great. And then I have had a couple questions about cost. So if you guys want, if anybody is interested in that type of information, if you want to throw your email in the chat, you can send it just to the panelists. So, if you don't want your email going out to everybody, but if you want to throw your email in the chat, and then I can connect you guys with somebody after the webinar who can give you that information as well.
And don't forget, Michelle, that
Oh, yeah.
oh,
Yes. So that's perfect transition. So we are actually having a winter giveaway right now for this sort of credentialing for our employability credentials. So if you purchase 5 or more qualifying titles, so these could be our job skills titles or our life skills titles. So, we have things ranging from carpentry, caregiver, small engine repair to kitchen safety, getting around, skills for buying a car, all sorts of self-confidence and social skills and things like that, just all your soft skills. So we have all sorts of titles. If you purchase 5 or more of those, you get a free 1-year subscription for these employability credentials. And also we will waive that activation fee as well that's associated with it. So definitely, if you're interested in this sort of thing, it is the best time to invest in that, just because this special is only going until April 1st. So definitely, if you want information, stick your email in the chat and I will connect you with somebody who can help you get started.
very nice, very nice. All right, so I'm going to bring it on home for us then, because I want to tell them where they can get more information about all of this stuff. And I'll come back and say thank you, so don't go anywhere, anybody. But there really is quite a bit of information that you all can get. As I said, this is our 17th Webinar Wednesday, and we have a spot on our page under resources called Webinar Wednesday, and that's where you can go ahead on in and you'll see a recording links for all of them. And so we've got additional information about how do you address building those job readiness skills if you have uncertain, classroom meeting times. If there's, some are remote, some are not, you've got to, well, how do you use these materials in some very creative ways? It's all baked into these different things. We had interviewed educators from around the country, so I highly recommend that you come on over to our educationassociates.com resources, and then underneath there you'll go to Wednesdays, Webinar Wednesdays. There's also a spot on each of our pages on the website, this red box that shows up at the bottom, where you can sign up for a newsletter. And in those monthly newsletters, we do a recap of what happened during these webinars. So what we just talked about today with our friends here from Nocti will be in next month's newsletter and so forth. These are really not salesy newsletters. They're more informative. Great way to share this information with other people in your organization. So if you're a transition specialist or director of special ed, you could take that next month newsletter and send it over to whoever's in charge of CTE in your district or just in general ed. And that way, it's a big need for everybody. It doesn't matter general ed or special ed. So this is a great thing that you can share information as you're going through. We have got a lot of this kind of information on the website. So there's an interactive packet. So when you download that, it's like a PDF, and then you can click and listen to some of the audio or see some of the video or see some of the pieces that actually make up these interactive courses. So there's really quite a bit of information there, and information about the funding, how ESSER funding, which by the way I hear is not being spent fully. So there's funding out there, just, squeaky wheels, right? I would be the squeaky wheel going on up to my administration and saying, by the way, I don't know if we've spent all of our ESSER funds, but if we haven't, I've got a way that we could really help kids really boost their employability in our community. Things like that. I don't know. I'm just kind of, put my nose in places here and there. It's what I've always done. So the funding piece of it is really helpful, can help you. There's a picture of the guide as well. So it'll show you all the different types of funding, especially as well as the ESSER funding, and how you can really use those to do this. We mentioned things like Perkins dollars and WIOA and things like that, but there's a bunch. And then finally, I would say perhaps one of the best things that Education Associates does are these personal Zoom overviews, and you can just sign up for one. It's a great time for you personally to ask any questions that you might have. We've had people, because you can go on into this site and you can just pick, let's say, I want to have a conversation on February 5th. That's our team meeting. And, we've had people say, look, our team meetings are on Thursdays at 1 o'clock. That's a day that we'd like to have a personal Zoom. And so we've had directors who've put that up on the screen, and then the whole team is able to kind of ask their questions and look at things and evaluate it together. So we're doing whatever we can. If you have any other bright ideas, we would be very happy to share. And I'm just looking at the note, and I'm going to send an apology out to Cynthia Sawyer. Normally, Cynthia, and you probably know this from previous ones, we normally put our closed captioning on. Michelle, we forgot.
I
Okay.
know.
I'm so sorry. Normally
Sorry
we do that right at the very beginning, and so I apologize because most of those recordings from all the webinar Wednesdays are done with closed captioning. We did have one of them where we had some folks who came on in and did some interpretation for us. Yes, we are totally open to having interpreters. In fact, Cynthia, if you and Michelle might connect, we need help with that. If you want to guide us, we would love that, because we bend over backwards to try and make sure every aspect of this curriculum and all the things that we do to help educate people, that it's accessible by all. But today, what happened to our brains? I don't know. We're still in winter
okay.
fog.
Yep, that's right. But that's okay. I appreciate the reminder, Cynthia, and we will make sure to be mindful of that in the future. So thank you for that.
I usually have a Post-it in front of me that says closed captioning. Okay. Well, we all learn every second of every day that we're here on this earth together. So I learned so much. I took pages of notes, Heidi and Randy. It's just fascinating because, sometimes we're so focused in our little world and we're looking at things in one way. It's just so refreshing to take a look and see, we're preparing students for their careers, and you all are in the business of careers out on the big space. And so it's really refreshing. I'm going to go back and listen again to this recording when it comes back up on the website, and share it with some people I know who should have been here today. But in the meantime, we thank you. Michelle, as always, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. And you guys, my email is right there on the screen, phone and email. So mmagram@educationassociates.com. So I will reach out to everybody in the chat who's given your information, who wanted more, had questions, wanted more information. I'm happy to reach out to you. But you are also welcome to reach out to me at this email and phone number.
So the recording and notes will be going on out to you. So Gerald, I see your note as well. And when we hang up on this, there should be on your screen a survey that pops up. If you wouldn't mind just taking 2 more minutes, maybe a minute and a half, to tell us what you'd like to see on upcoming webinar Wednesdays. It really helps us put together a program that's a little bit more meaningful for you all. So with that, we're going to say Happy New Year one more time, and thank you to everybody here. And we'll see you on the first Wednesday of February. Oh, words fail me, but
Right.
we'll see you then. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you,
All right.
Randy and Heidi.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
And I'm going